Hey, everybody. This is Michael from Fuse Marriages. We have an amazing show for you today. Are you marrying the right person? We got a test for you. All right, let's check it out.
Fuse marriage. Let's have a conversation. Fuse marriage. Talk it out, work it out. Fuse marriages.
Thank you for tuning in. We are Tristin and Michael, and you are listening to Fuse, transparent conversations for marriage, family, and relationships. We invite you to join us as we discuss topics that are thought about but not talked about, so tell your friends and family to check us out. And as always, join us on all of our socials at Fuse Marriages or our website, fusemarriages.com.
How you doing over there?
I am well, and I am really curious as to jumping into today's topic, which is called marital litmus test. Talk about it.
All right. Well, we know growing up as a kid, maybe in your third, fourth grade year, you had science experiments, right? And we had this little paper that we would have this liquids we would put in to kind of see if it was an acid or a base.
Yeah.
Right? If I remember correctly, I'm doing my science teachers or students out there, if it was red, it was an acid.
Okay.
Right? We dipped the paper in that liquid, that clear liquid.
It was like blue, it was a base.
It was blue, it was a base.
I remember.
But what did that give us, right? It told us, right, hey, what side did that liquid fall on? We couldn't tell. We could maybe smell it. We couldn't look at it. We couldn't touch it. We couldn't taste it. But we had to have some kind of test to really determine what it fell in, right?
Right.
So that got me to thinking, like, you know what? A lot of people are interested in getting married. Wouldn't it be amazing to have a litmus test to say, hey, you know what? Should I or should I not get married? And maybe some people already are married. Well, you know what? You might need to change it up.
Don't say
No. I'm saying change it up in the aspect of, you know what? Hey, me and you, we got what? We 10 years in.
Yeah.
We done been through some hills and valleys trying to figure out this, that, and the other. And you can't remain the same.
Yeah, that's true.
So once you have new information, you have to switch it up a little bit. You have to adjust. You have to adjust. So I said, you know what? Let's come up with some ways that people can tell what if they should or should not get married again.
Okay.
So not again. Well, that could be again. That could be true. Or they shouldn't get. It's a couple of categories, right? Maybe they got married before, got it wrong. I'm sorry. I'm not going to tell them there, but or they are interested in getting married from the they knew they fresh. They trying to get the connection. They want to know if that person is it.
Okay.
I just gotta help the people.
So the marital litmus test, we are basically testing some ways that we can view the relationship and saying, okay, before we jump all the way in, let's see where we fall.
Yeah. I think there's some ways, at least some questions we may can explore.
Okay.
Because sometimes questions you can get an answer, but you got to explore that answer even.
Okay, let's go.
So want to jump into it?
Yeah,
you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
All right. So the first question is, 1, do they treat you like a lover and a friend?
I think that's important.
Explain it.
Right. I'm about to get into it. So I think that's important, right? Because the idea, like, with the lover aspect of it, they warn you, they're taking you out, y'all going to dinner, they putting on they Sunday's best when y'all going out, smelling nice, this, that, and the other, which is good. That's the lover aspect of it.
Okay.
But as we know, there's a friendship aspect of it too, right? When I got to put the lover to the side, no, that sound kind of odd. But when I got to put the lover, hey, you know what? That's cool. You keep it, but I need a friend right now. Why you laughing?
You something special, sir. You are something special.
I need a friend, right? Because it's cool to have a lover. It's cool. There's nothing wrong with having a lover. But you also need a friend as well. And I'm like, you know what? They should be able to see both sides of that, right? And can I be a lover, and can I be your friend?
Yeah, and knowing what to do when, like, I think is like, what hat do I put on in what circumstances? Because sometimes, maybe some of you all can relate. Sometimes you just really need. You might go to your dude, and you might be like be stressed out or have something. He starts trying to feel on you. Be like, don't touch me. Maybe that's me. I'd be like, stop. I'm trying to talk through some things.
Right.
But for some partners, that touch just kind of soothes it. It's like, I feel better already.
Right.
So knowing which one.
Right. I mean, like,
You looking at me like,
no, I'm just trying to.
don't be telling our business.
I'm just saying, but you're absolutely right though, right? Because the idea of a friend, right, is just a little different. How that interaction is needed. You know what I mean? People out there, you out there, maybe having the idea of like, you know what? Hey, I'm going through something. I may not need. You might not that touch. You may not need.
Right.
But you may need that conversation, right? You may need that listening ear. And is it possible for the person that you're considering? Can they be both? And I think that's an important question, right? They may be the greatest going out. I heard people, you know what? We have fun together, which is cool, right? But so at some point, you may need something a little bit deeper than just somebody just going out and having fun with somebody.
Okay. Well, number 2. What are they willing to lay down for you? Explain that.
Oh, man. I think this may apply. It can apply both to men and women, but I know us men, that applies quite a bit, right? So the idea of having to like lay down or put something to the side, right, or give up something, what are you able to do that, right? So, for example, you know what, like, hey, I played sports, right? And maybe when I was a single person, and you know what, that's something I did every Saturday. Can I put that down and say, hey, you want to go out, you want to go see, you know, in the RE on a Saturday, that's my ball day. Can I put that down? I mean, that's a simple thing. Or hey, you know what? I go see my mom on Christmas, but you want to go see your mother on Christmas. Can I sacrifice that? And that's something that's a real thing.
So what would you say to somebody that says like, man, they won't let me be me. I've always done this, or Saturday has always been my ball day, and now they want to change it up. It's been this way. How would you respond to somebody that is saying it's not that they don't want to put something down, but they feel like all of the things that of who they are is being encroached upon?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would try to address that question. That's a very good question, first and foremost, but because I think that happens a lot.
Yeah.
To a lot of y'all, right? To where, you know what, you feel that maybe this person is kind of taking away the core of who you are. But once you're in a relationship, you're going to change, and the goal is really to become probably a better person, maybe not a different person, but you're going to become a better person.
I like that.
And if that person is not pushing you that, whether they're challenging you or having you do other things that you normally wouldn't do, I think I would consider that a positive, right? Assuming that you're okay with, hey, I like where relationship is going. I love them. I'm happy with how things are progressing, but they're having me have these, you know, hey, pulling these things I like to do out of me, right? I mean, I want to do, but they may be deciding, like saying, hey, you know what, can you do this instead? Or, you know, we got some maybe example we can kind of talk about, right? Some things you kind of maybe pulled out of me.
Yeah.
You know, so like one of them, right, you know, say, hey, like, this is funny, but not funny because it was an issue for us. Like, I like doing the dishes at night. I'm sorry, you like doing the dishes at night.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you do?
I like doing them in the morning. And it was one of those things like, well, hey, you know what? Can we have our kitchen clean before we go to bed? And I was like, nah, I get up in the morning and get everything clean. And we had to bump our heads like, you know what? Hold on. Can I put down how I saw it and maybe consider how you were seeing it, and can we come to a common ground? Yeah. And I think ultimately we both end up giving a little bit, right? Because it's like, okay, you know what? First you were like, hey, you know what? Kitchen got to be clean before we go to bed. Or
not else. A cup or a fork.
And then I got a little petty and start leaving like little spoons in the sink and stuff. Y'all don't judge me. I'm just saying it did happen. Just a little bit. I ain't the only one that's petty. Y'all petty too. You petty too.
I'm not petty.
Okay, we're going to skip on that for now. But,
I'm trying to think. What you talking about?
But I had to come to, I think we came to, we came to kind of understand, so you know what? Can we just bend in both ways in that area?
Yeah. I think that there's some important concepts in that. And I think one of them is really not seeing your partner as the enemy. Like, I think that you can start framing a narrative where they are out to take away things from me, as opposed to like what you said, we're both giving for the better of the relationship. And I think that, but once you start to look at them as the opposition, that, okay, well, they're taking this from me and they're doing this to me, you really have to start digging as to why you see them that way. And the other partner has to wonder, why do you see me that way? Am I being too demanding? Am I taking too many things? Am I not giving enough to the relationship where there's a shared sense of reciprocity? Right. So I think in that you can start to say like, okay, yeah, I'm willing to give because I'm not feeling like I'm being taken advantage of. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I think it's a two-way street, what I'm hearing you
Yeah.
say, right? I mean, so like nobody should be the only one giving and nobody should be the only one receiving.
Right.
And I think we tell our kids or anybody else out there, we tell our daughter in particular, right? She seems like she is a giver. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we told her, he said, you know what? Any friends you have, make sure they're not a taker. Right? Well, that's their kind of primary thing because they're gonna drain you and you're gonna continue to give and it's gonna be toxic, right? Whether that's a friendship or whatever that is, right? So almost like even though she's young now, I'm in my mind, I'm trying to get her prepared. Yeah. Like, you know what, because you're such a giver, don't be a taker, but because it should be a two-way street.
Right. And I think it's important for us to identify those traits in ourselves too. Like you teach your kids these things, but to say in my relationships, am I somebody that there are seasons where you might take more than you're giving, but that shouldn't be like your modus operandi where you just, all the relationships that you have, you're extracting their time or their resources or their relationships or their finances. Like there's no, hey, I'm giving to you. And I want to identify sometimes, like I said, that there are seasons. It's also important to recognize what season you're in. So not just who you are, but what season. Okay, this might be a time where my spouse is out of work, or this might be a time where my wife is pregnant where she can't do the things that she did before, or he's unable, or this might be a time where both of us are really pouring into the littles and we're trying to find time for each other, so our focus is elsewhere. So recognizing those times and seasons, I think, are really important because you can mislabel your spouse, be like, well, you're not taking care of me the way that you used to. It's like, hold on, let's both step back and look at where we are in our relationship. And maybe it's really not us at all. Maybe it's just circumstantial. There are other things that are our focus.
That's good.
Okay, did you have something else you want to say on that?
No, that's good. No,
okay.
I'm good on that.
Let's look at number 3. So the third marital litmus test. Mm-hmm. Is their heart ever convicted or condemned when they do wrong towards you?
We're talking about a litmus test, right? A verification of if, you know what, am I marrying the right person? Am I married to the right person? Now, people can change, but it should be challenged. But I think this is another litmus test. You know what? If they do wrong, which we all do.
Sure.
How do they feel on the inside about that when they recognize they did wrong? Right? I think that's a litmus test, right? They kind of like, oh man, whatever. You know what? Are they just blowing it off? Or they acting like, hey, nothing ever happened. Yeah. Or they like, man, you know what? Man, I hate that it happened. I'm trying to figure it out. I want to, us come together and kind of come to some understanding of how we can move forward.
Yeah.
Those are two different approaches I just named off.
Yeah.
And I think you need to understand if you're married to somebody like that, or are you interested in married to somebody like that, that's just a litmus of saying, hey, hold on. Can we get this understanding of what this looks like where your heart, really it's a heart thing what we're talking about, where your heart's at.
I think that's huge. Because I think it's important. There's a couple things in that. So one of the ones thinking, do they ever feel badly for hurting you? Do your feelings about a thing matter? And there's the axiom, like feelings aren't facts, which is absolutely true. There can be something that you misunderstand or misinterpret, or a feeling that you have from something that happened, even if it wasn't the intention of the other person. But I think them recognizing that you're wounded by something matters, or that you're elated by something, that something made you happy, that there's something that you are excited about. Like them recognizing how you feel is really important, but particularly when there is a negative, a pain, a hurt, a wound, how do they approach you? One of my things is I can't stand when
you said stand, and it kind of like stand. I even felt it when you said that.
I stand people that are never wrong about anything. Maybe not the person. Maybe I shouldn't say it that way, but I said it.
Yeah, you said it right.
I do not like when there's somebody that just will not admit fault.
Yeah.
Like no matter what. And I happen to know a number of people that they're just never wrong. And I've talked, when we first got married, we talked about what your partner needs in to mend a relationship, something that has happened. And I think it's important for everybody to know, what is it that you need? Do you require an I'm sorry that do you more require like, babe, let's, like, what is it that you need? Because there's different languages of apology. I know for me, in our relationship, you have to say I'm sorry. Like, it can't just be like, we moving forward. I actually happen to think that that's important to everybody, but knowing how to approach an apology, to what you were saying, I think is critical, because it shows that you matter. It shows your heart posture. It shows like, wait a minute, I did something and I need to change because I'm seeing how it affects you. And the truth is, that can be even if you're right. You have a saying, and it's, you can be right and wrong at the same time. Yeah. So you can be right about something and you can still hurt somebody, your partner, your spouse. And if you don't even say like, you know what, we came to this conclusion, but I didn't handle myself right. Maybe what you said was true and it proved itself to be true. And you're the type that needs to go back and be like, man, I could have handled that better. I know it turned out this way, but I didn't handle you right in the process, because you can be right and wrong at the same time.
I think that's a great point, by the way. I think there's often two types of people. And I think I've been in at least both these categories at some point in time. I think there's like, when we're talking about right and wrong and like people being like, you know, convicted if they're right or wrong about the issue. Sometimes, like, at least for me, you know what, if we have a conflict, I may not know I'm wrong. So the conviction won't necessarily be there. Right? I think that's a different from somebody saying, like, somebody doing or being like, you know, they know they wrong and the conviction not being there. Yeah. So like, I think we have to separate, at least in my mind, I'm trying to like separate, like, hey, if I'm dealing with somebody that knows they wrong and not convicted, or don't know they wrong and not convicted, those are like, I personally have to separate that. You know, if you know you're wrong, not convicted, I got a problem with that. But if you doing, say, the same result, right? Is there still an issue, but you really don't, you can't see it, or we can't point it out to the level where you can actually, it's obvious, then I would probably give that person a little more grace. I would.
So, okay. So how do you know that they know that they're wrong?
That's a great question, because a lot of times, like you said, I mean, some things are obvious, right? And if people can't talk about the obvious, then it's going to be hard to talk about the stuff that's underneath that. True. And I think that comes through conversation where, you know what, even the obvious stuff we're disagreeing on, it's not wordplay, it's not games. Like, we're just not seeing it the same. So we'll never get to the deeper level of it, right? Because the obvious is still like, you know what? Hey, it's cold outside. I'm like, no, it's not cold outside. No, it's 70 degrees. You saying that's cold? I'm like, no, that's not cold. Like, that's an obvious thing.
Like, it's subjective thing.
It's just, we're seeing it different.
Okay.
We're seeing that situation very, very, very different. And that could be just, hey, how many dates we go out on, or whatever have you. We're just seeing it different. And that, you know, and like, so like, to apologize for that, that's going to be hard. Or not even apologize, just to kind of be convicted from that's going to be difficult.
But I even think in that there are ways to approach it. Like, if somebody says like, hey, I'm wounded by this thing, the response very legitimately could be like, I'm not seeing it that same way. Like, let me think on that. Or can you explain that? Or let's discuss this more. That approach versus like, man, you tripping. Nobody whatever it is. That approach, because you can do harm. Like, there can be like increasing levels of harm where there was one offense. I didn't done that. And now I'm offended by the offense and the offense that you caused in addressing the offense.
Yeah, don't tell my business like that. Hold
on. But I think that there are ways that even if there's not an understanding, that you can communicate that I'm not getting it. I don't understand, versus not understanding and not caring that you don't understand. Yeah. So I can hear what you're saying. Go ahead.
But you're saying, though, like, communication is really, 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 really important, because what you're saying is like, really, we have to dialogue about this maybe difficult topic or questionable topic. We're not seeing it, like, and we may have to like just start dissecting it piece by piece. Until we really get an understanding of like, hey, okay, we at least, okay, even if we're seeing it different, I can say, man, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because somebody may say in a circle, hey, I'm hurt by this. I'm like, okay, like, for why? Mm-hmm. And that's what some people may do. I've done it. You know what I mean? And then that ends up offending the person on another level.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just a disconnect in the communication of breaking it down to some people. Most people a lot of people are willing to listen. If with somebody they love, kind of, hey, talk me through really what's going on. Give me to that journey of where you got there. And that takes patience sometimes, but something happens and the negativity's there and like, hey, you need to apologize quickly. Or you need to kind of like see that you need to do something different. And there's, if they're not on that same page like that, then you end up getting some conflict there.
Yeah, I think that happens very frequently because I think that too often any number of us wear offense, versus wearing connection or understanding. So we're almost ready when it comes to challenging conversations. We're almost ready for something versus like, hey, and that can be on the defense or the offense. We're ready to be offended. We know you're not going to listen. You're not really going to understand. You don't care about me or any of those versus, man, she always got something or he always saying something or again, here we go again. There's like these, so often we're postured, against one another.
Yeah.
Whatever the thing is, we're pitted against one another versus like coming to the other side of the table and saying, let me see if I can see it from your vantage point, because I don't see your vantage point from here. Let me see if I adjust my angle, or maybe if you say it a different way, or maybe if we take some time just to think about it. Maybe I digest it differently then, because ultimately this conversation gets resolved and then there's another conversation to be had.
Right.
So it's not like, man, got through that. Yes. Like we're good for life.
Right.
Like, okay, now there's another thing. And then there's another thing. And like I said it earlier, then there's another thing in another season. So what never bothered me before may kind of bother me now. Maybe I have extra stressors now. And that dish in the sink for the last however many months or years, it's never bothered me. And now it's a thing. And I could come off and be like, why is there this dish in the sink? And my responsibility to my relationship is not to take out all the stresses, but also his response could be to diffuse or to identify, hey, it's been like this. Yeah. What's changed? What's going on? And for me to be self-aware enough to know, like, okay, Tristin, you're doing it. There's other things that you probably need to just talk about. And then there being an opportunity for us now to connect in a deeper level. And then once you get through that, being like, man, we got through that one together. And now we're at a deeper level of our relationship as opposed to this thing causing dissension for an extended period of time.
Yeah, no, I was just, as you were talking, I was just thinking about some things that we kind of have seen, right? We get a chance to kind of interact with couples, right? Whether it's in our personal life, whether it's through our training classes, whatever have you, right? Yeah. We get a chance to interact. But one example did come up in regards to when you were thinking about, like, far as like the disconnect and people kind of jumping the gun. We know we're out in dinner, right, y'all, with a couple. We're sitting there eating dinner and we're having discussions about some pretty sensitive topics. And one of the topics kind of dealt with, like, hey, you know what, my guy doesn't necessarily see it my way, this, that, and the other, and he's always dealing with his family, blah blah blah, right? So I begin to interject, like, hey, you know what, have you thought about seeing it this way? Maybe they just need more time to kind of spend, they don't get a chance to see him that often. And the first response that person gave back to me was like, see, you just another man, you gonna believe? Like, I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
The closeness of that let me know, like, it's probably hard for him, that husband, to get conversation started about a sensitive topic, because they already have a defense mechanism up to saying, hey, you're a man, you're going to see it this way. Right? So I think we have to almost intentionally avoid that for us ourselves. We can't make our spouse be, change in that way, make him point it out. But if we're intentionally say, hey, okay, hold on, I'm going to try my best not to be defensive. Yeah. And that's hard. I'll be like, you let them dishes out. I'm like, you don't know what I did last night. I've been busy. I didn't clean up. I didn't swept. I didn't did this. I had to give some homework. Like, no, like, but just try not to be defensive and, like, try to hear it out and maybe have a conversation about that thing.
Yeah, I agree. And some of what you're saying too, is our own responsibility, like as our own job to look at ourselves and be like, am I being defensive? Like there can be people that point it out, but you still have to be willing to say, man, I'm projecting, you know, like maybe it's not as bad. Maybe I could try to see it from a different perspective, but all of this baseline to have a good relationship, it's going to take you taking responsibility for yourself and how can I make me better? And in so doing, how can I be a better partner? Like it's going to have to happen, whether it's you amending your communication, whether it's you being more patient or more forthcoming, whether it's you really trying to engage and invest in a different way. All of these things matter, but you really have to say, what can I do in this relationship? So I want to get to the fourth one before we run out of time, because it really goes along to me with the second one, but I have a question attached to the question. So the question was, can they apologize when they might be wrong? But my question is, what do you do if for those that are already married, if their spouse really doesn't, like they don't get it, and there's just a consistent level of offense?
Well, you're talking about in a marriage context. I don't think it's possible to have a marriage without having sorry being said on a weekly basis, monthly basis. No, because you got to think about it. Because things happen, right? Yeah. Whether miss something, look at something wrong, see something different. Like we're unintentionally offending each other, right? Going out through the like we make the mindset of saying, hey, you know what? If I happen to do, and we put the word might, right? If I might be wrong, can I apologize for it? Forget about if I am. But just the fact, maybe if I may be wrong, do I have the heart to apologize? To me, that's a different place of saying, if I'm wrong, maybe I can, right? Maybe I'm not, no, yeah, you pointed out, hey, I'm sorry. What if it's just a maybe, or maybe just a might, and I ain't quite got it all together of really what they're saying? Can I still apologize? Right? Does it register in my mind that it's still effective for me to say sorry, even if I ain't quite really got the whole context of really what happened and where the breakdown took place? So
what about for those that partners don't seem to get it? What do they do?
I don't see it lasting, to be honest with you. That's a blunt answer.
It is.
But it's a truthful answer that ultimately, right, if you never say sorry, right, and people have been in relationships that I have, like, hey, I pointed out some situation to somebody and they were like, okay. I was like, you know what? Let me tip my hat. Let me go on out. Let me exit stage left. But I try to give a person an opportunity to apologize. After I apologize, I'm like, oh man, years ago, y'all, years.
Talking very specifically.
Years ago. But I've seen, I didn't like that feeling. Yeah. And you know what? And it didn't work. Yeah. Relationship didn't work. Yeah. And I think it's ultimately the way it's going to break down. Yeah. It's going to break down.
I think that's true regardless of gender. That men need to hear, I'm sorry, I messed that up. I missed the mark. Just like women. I think there's a lot of attention paid to men apologizing to women for the wrongs done. That's true. But not as much paid.
We do mess up a lot more, probably.
I'm not going to disagree.
At least in the obvious areas. Women, y'all can maybe mess up, but it ain't quite as blatant, maybe. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Men mess up. We mess up a lot.
But I think that mess up a lot. I think there's something to be said with communicating on both sides. That if there's a mistake and if you're owed or if you owe an apology. So I think that that's regardless of gender. But to your point, if you or your partner is unwilling to apologize, or they're unwilling to connect, or they're unwilling to do any of the things on this litmus test, if they're not, they only seem to be into the physical. They always want to be the lover and they don't want to be the friend. They never do wrong. They're always right. And they want you to be convinced of their righteousness, that they're never convicted. Right. Like these are the things that if you are married, we highly recommend seeing a marriage counselor, to going to a therapist and talking through some of these things, because not just marriage, no relationship can survive where there's always only one winner. Both of you have to be able to stand on the platform and win together. And the other part of it is, if you are not married, this is something worth considering. This may be a red flag to say, wait a minute, pause for a second. Are they missing the mark altogether? Because once once you're in the house and you're married and all of these things, that it's not that these things just automatically get better. These are things that need to be pointed out and identified, and there needs to be a change of action. So that's my thoughts on it. I'll give you last words.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It's basically trying to get the help that you need, right? And I think we have, at least one of the tools people could consider, right, with our premarital class.
Yeah.
It's not that we love it because we think we built it, but we think it helps address some serious potential issues or concerns that can help you maybe avoid some pitfalls.
Absolutely.
That class is just, it's dynamic, we think, you know what I mean? To be able to kind of navigate this. Marriage is hard. Relationships are hard. We all need help. Yeah. And I appreciate you for saying that, saying, hey, you know what, people got to go seek help. I think this show here, right, it kind of helps people get a little more context, a little more color, a little more understanding. But ultimately, right, hey, if you're open, your partner's open to really growing, I think that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, it's going to take that. It's going to take some deeper conversations for sure. So if you're interested in our premarital class, go to our website, fusedmarriages.com, and you can click on there and you can join that community and you can start your premarital journey, because we obviously think that it's helpful to try to explore and have some of those conversations before you say I do. And then thereafter, you're more than welcome to check out some of our other resources on the page. And of course, continue to share and like this show and let us know your thoughts. We want to engage with you because we consider this important dialogue, important conversations for marriage, family, and relationships. So thank you for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you the next time. But as for now, let's talk about it.